What's going on, guys? It's your boy Beats by Ash, and we are back at it again with the Table One Podcast, episode 6. And I am here with my boy Mike. I know who you are, and some people on the channel may know who you are, but could you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people?
I'm a guy that isn't really good at card games and just likes to play card games and refuses to not try and make money when I do it. So, ta-da! I just play cards. I'm not that good at it, but I got a good coach, so he's helping me out. And yeah, hopefully he can give me some more pointers because I didn't do too well last time.
Yes, sir. He is also the owner of the #1 card store in the nation, Nightwing's Gaming Loft, and
Yes.
some of you may regard to him as the Garp God.
Dude, somebody said I should be. They nominated me as the Garp president, the president of the Garp Association. So I'm like, sheesh, I love it, I love it, I love it.
I mean, you're just the Garp Giga Chad because you just have a better beard than him. So that just allows you to take priority in that role.
Dude, I have a buddy of mine who's a great artist. So his name is the Art Lord out in California, and I sent him the picture of the alt art leader, the alt art of Garp doing the punch from his 2K card and over the shoulder, and I was like, turn me into him because he's really good. And he looked at the picture, he was like, this guy looks just like you. You're just darker. And I was like, exactly, make it happen. So hopefully he'll be done with it by the beginning of this month, so I can get it made into a playmat. Because that's all I want is to be made into a playmat, and then people have to look at my face.
Light skin Garp incoming?
They're gonna be like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is bullshit. Yeah. So that's when it comes in. I'm gonna have to send you a picture of it because you're gonna be like, this looks amazing. It's gonna look great.
We got to. And all of his social links will be down below. Make sure to go subscribe to his channel because he's out here doing it like no one else. This guy is out here changing the shorts game, and he is pushing me to be bringing my all-time best. So that's what we like to see. But before we get into the goo, make sure to smash the like button, turn post notifications on, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another banger. And without further ado, let's get into the goo. Okay, so recently, Mike did a coaching with me, and he actually made a video about it, which just exceeded all of the views of every single video I have posted on this entire channel, which kind of just invalidated my entire purpose for being here. So at this point, I now must give the property rights of this show over to Mike. He ended up playing Garp at the most recent in-person regional, and it was actually the biggest one that's happened so far, correct?
Yeah, I think it was 820 people. Yeah, it was 820 people, which is weird. It was originally 1,000, but I guess 200 people didn't show up. So it was what it was. But it was 820.
What's interesting is they don't increase the prize support. You know, in the past, those events have been 512.
No, I think it was the exact same everything. So for participation, you got the one Don pack, you got the event pack, and you got the participation pack, and that was about it. There was no at least for participation, there wasn't anything extra on top of it. And I think the pricing was exactly the same for the top 8, top 16. Everything was the same, even though they had more packs, I guess, available since less people showed up. I will say the next day when they had the buddy battle system, they were really pushing that, but they ran out of the Nami sleeve they were supposed to have as whoever won, whichever team won, they would get the Nami sleeves. They ran out of those throughout them, but I think they still had extra, I guess, event packs and stuff laying around, but I don't know what they do with those things. But it did not go to the top competitors that I'm aware of. Maybe to the judges, but yeah, nothing to the players went out.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting to compare and contrast because, as some of you may know on the channel, I have a vast Yu-Gi-Oh background, and in Yu-Gi-Oh, I've touched on this a little bit before, but at a YCS, which is comparable to one of these large events, if they had a capacity that exceeded expectations, oftentimes they would actually open up another part of the convention center if possible, and they would actually create a second version of the event, which was, you know, sometimes even beneficial for you because, you know, the best people, the people you want to dodge could be in that first event. But either way, in some instances, it would just double the prize support. So that's kind of interesting to see here that, you know, they kind of just keep it the same. Now, to build off of that, did the number of rounds exceed what these other past Premier events have been? Because I know most Premier events, at least the ones that I played in, were 9 rounds, and all the ones that I watched were 9 rounds.
No, it was 9 rounds. It was going because they did it where it was. They said it was gonna be 10 rounds or until there was one undefeated. But what happened was like somebody was 3-0 and dropped. So that messed up like the number of undefeated players. So there was always just one extra essentially. So when it came down to it, somebody got paired down. I think they either won or lost, but somebody else went against somebody else that was undefeated. So at the end of 9 rounds, there was one player that was undefeated, which was very interesting. So that ended still with the 9 rounds. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like if they started dividing everything, it would still end up with the same amount. But it was just 9 rounds, and had the one undefeated. Yeah.
I mean, that's lucky because I don't know about you, but for me in big events, I'm always like, bro, please be 7 rounds. You know, in Yu-Gi-Oh, they're always like, okay, could be 7, could be 8, could be 9. Like, it's not like until there's an undefeated. You just don't know until you get there. And I feel like with this system, since there is a, you know, concisive cap before you come in, it's kind of predetermined that there's going to be 9. Now, there could be a chance that it could be more, but I have never, you know, seen that happen. And this is a good indicator of that, as this was the first one exceeding that cap, and it didn't even happen. So, you know, that's just very interesting to think about. Because the way that it works in Yu-Gi-Oh! And as well as some Magic tournaments that I've seen happen before is you'll have the first day and you'll play out 9 rounds. Then typically what will happen is you'll go into the second day, and depending on how many people there are, if there was a equal occupants to what your tournament was, about 800 to 900, there would usually be about 2 rounds on day 2 before the top cut, and then you would cut to top 64. But the difference is that you would not even get to go to day 2 unless you were within like the top 150 or something like that. You have to like be within the constraints of like making it. So typically, in order to get to day 2, I think oftentimes you would be X2 or better for the most part, which means you only had 2 losses or less. But also in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's a potential chance to tie, and that can also create interesting scenarios because if you're a top player, a lot of times you know a lot of the people who are traveling to all the big events. And what a lot of people will do is, if I'm only 1 loss and you're only 1 loss in day 1, then we could just tie and then both just leave and come back the next day. Or on day 2, the people who are only 1 loss, they'll both just tie and then they'll just guarantee. And we actually saw that in one of the most recent Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship series. It was a 3v3 championship series. So while there was still a similar occupants of like 800 to 1,000 people, similar to a normal event, you had 3 matches going on at once, where, you know, everyone's match counts individually, but if 2 out of 3 of the teammates win, then your team wins the round. And what was interesting about this is I had 2 friends who actually competed in that, and apparently like 8 teams, there was only like, I think like 8 or 10 teams that got to move on to the top cut because it's 3v3, it's less, you know, people qualifying for that. I guess like 80% of the people who qualified for the top cut tied in the last round. Like, they all just agreed to tied, and that just, like, screws over all the people who, you know, were on the bubble. What I mean by on the bubble is that you had a fair chance to not make it or make it, and then you just missed. You know, you didn't get in. And so that just screws over all the people who were at that borderline record, whereas in this game, you can't really do that. And I do kind of like that because I do think that, number one, ties – like, not only does it feel dissatisfying to be on the losing end of the stick, for me personally, when I would have situations like that, I would just, like, feel bad. Number one, because
Yeah.
you may not get to see exactly like how the game played out. And I always want to do my best. And I'm not necessarily concerned about the wins or losses, but I'm concerned about, did I do everything I could to perform at my best? And sometimes when you just, time is called and there's a tie, you're like, dang, okay, this just screwed me. And I didn't get to like, see if I was really able to perform at my best.
Yeah. You know, that's definitely something I'm a fan of with One Piece. Like, okay, life, equal life. Okay, cool. Who has the most cards in their deck? It's like, okay, they make sure that
It's
you're not
actually
just
who has
gonna
the
get
least
cheesed
amount
out.
of cards. So if
Oh,
you're
that's
if
what
you're
it is.
playing Blue Nami, you're just a Giga Chat.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But I like, I like that it doesn't allow people to do that kind of stuff because like people will find a way to just cheat and like
Yeah.
slow play and stuff like that and stall out. So it's like,
So in this tournament, you were playing the second best two-color leader after the Blurple God. I would say that this leader could potentially be the best if his art actually had a cigar in it, but it doesn't. So, maybe they'll give you a better one later on. But go ahead and tell us what deck you were playing, and go ahead and walk us through your matchups. Give us a little brief tournament report, Mike.
all right, so I pull up on Twitter because I made sure I put the things up because I know I was going to forget.
Okay.
But I played Garp. Garp was the leader I pulled. Well, when I was looking through my OPO2 stuff, I was like, oh, this guy has like the best ability. Let me go with this. And like people tell me all the time, oh, he doesn't have the best ability. I'm like, that's a lie. For his deck construction, the ability to manipulate cost with every attachment is ridiculous. It's just I just need to make the deck better. And as the game goes, I'll probably get some cooler cards I can add in. But playing Garp, I love it. It's freaking amazing. I started off going 3-0, and I'm going to blame one guy. Okay, his name is Foreign Rax. So if he sees this, I'm blaming him again because he sent me a message after the third round and was like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, 3-0." He was like 3-0 with Garp. That's crazy, and that's when he fucked me. He fucked me. It's all him. Like I was doing great until he said something negative. So I'm blaming him in totally. But my first one was against Kinemon. It was pretty chill. I do fairly decent against green because like the whole black side being able to just destroy things. So Kinemon was pretty chill. The second one was against Kaido, purple Kaido. The dude didn't really understand like the black cards. So he tried to kill Borsellino 3 times with effects. And it was like, yeah, you can't do that. Like he dropped King, another King, and what's that thing called? 10 drop Kaido to try and kill it. And I was like, yeah, it's still alive. So
I'm dead.
Wait. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, he doesn't die. He was like, oh, again? And then he attacked one time for like 5 after dropping. So after dropping 10 drop Kaido, he just went to attack for 5 and I blocked for 6 with Borsellino. He was like, what? And I was like,
What
yeah.
the heck?
I was like, here. I gave it to him like 3 times to read. I was like, yeah, just here it is. So I ended up having like 2 or 3 on the board. And I was like, he doesn't die. Like you can't kill him.
I'm dead. Pause.
Yeah, it was
pause.
nuts.
Pause. Is it me? Or is it just the purple Kaido people? Almost always, they're the person who just decided to leave the game for 2 months and they just came back in and they have no idea what the new cards do because their strategy is just as degenerate since the first conception of the deck and it rarely changes at all. Like, I know so many people who literally, like, they know very little about the game. They're like, hey, so I had to take some time off to like go study for school or like do a lot of work for my job. And then I just come back and I just wanted to top. And since you can go 50-50 in every matchup, I'm just going to go in blind with Kaido. Like, I feel like I see so many people like that.
Yeah, no, I've heard that from some folks who are just like, I haven't got a chance to play. Just same thing. I just haven't had a chance to play. So I'm just going with Kaido because it's simple. And I get it. Like, I hate playing against Kaido. I get it. It's a solid deck. It's just going against me with like a Smoker and a Borsellino, you're not killing it. Like they're just not dying. And your only option to kill the cards is to attack, and that's it. And if I'm not attacking with it yet, you're kind of just sitting there looking at them. And I definitely think like that's a game plan for a lot of people that play Kaido.
Yeah.
Because I think the only new card he had, no, he didn't even have Hell's Judgment. So I don't remember. I got to look over the video.
Wait,
again.
really?
But
That's like the most unfair card. That card's so broken.
I swear, I don't think I saw him even play like an OPO2 card in the deck. It was just all just OPO1 stuff. So maybe he just hadn't played, but I was like, yeah, you can't kill it. You can't kill it. And this was round two. Was it round two? Yeah, it was round two. So we were both 1-0, and it was just like, he just couldn't kill it.
Think about this. He had a whole round to read cards, and he beat someone. And then he decided not to read cards in round two.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's still here. Like, you can't kill him. Like at one point, I was just like, you read it again. Just look at it again, because like you can't kill it. Like you're trying and it's just not working, and you're just wasting effects at this point. Like I
Judge, my opponent needs some reading glasses.
Round three, I went against Luffy. But it was crazy because like I went against my buddy Matt, who was the guy, one of the guys I was staying with in Texas. Like we came from the same area. Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to play against you. Like we played against each other yesterday because we went to the day before the tournament. We went to a locals at Eclipse Card Games. So we went to that, and we were there from like 7 p.m. to 11. No, 6 to 11. So it was like we were up playing. We tested and batted each other like 9-10 times. It's like I don't want to play against you, but I was able to squeeze out the W because I attacked with my leader, but I put 2 Don under my Borsellino just in case he had a jet pistol of life, and he had a fucking jet pistol of life, and it didn't kill my Borsellino. So the Borsellino was able to block an attack later on. And boom. And then after that, everything just went downhill because the guy from Racks fucking called me. Lost to Zoro, lost to Whitebeard, which was a boat straw mixture, and then lost to Doflamingo. And the dude I lost to Doflamingo against, I beat at the locals the day before. So I was like, fuck. So it was just going to happen. And then I lost to a Whitebeard, Boatbeard. And at that point, I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, God damn it.
Hey, on behalf of your loss, I will apologize for screwing your tournament because I'm the Dofi god, and that guy probably net decked me, and that's how he clapped you up. And without me, he wouldn't have known what cards to put in his deck. So you would have just auto won, man.
It was nuts. Like the day before, like it was a good battle. I was able to pull that one out. And then when we sat down, I was like, shit, he knows my tricks.
and you played 9-drop, right?
Yeah, I played 9-drop, yeah.
Because I know that's, you're talking about how you were favorable versus the green matchup. And I will say that 9-drop is super oppressive versus any green deck because they have no way to out it unless you attack with it yourself. You have to tap it, you know? And that's what I've noticed. That's why I told you in our coaching session to play the 9-drop, because the meta is so diverse that I don't think it's fair from all of this data I've collected to try to make your strategy good to beat one specific, deck in the meta. And that's where I fell short trying to angle my deck to beat like Whitebeard because there was so much sheer representation. And what I've found is with the 9-drop, if you go against anyone who's not playing red, it's literally just busted because the only people that can remove it are the people who have red in their deck because they can go Otama or Gordon and then use a pistol. But outside of that, if you never choose to tap your Whitebeard, the other guy just can't kill it. And that's just objectively broken. And because of that, people are now resorting to trying to rule shark the other guy on not using his effect because they can't actually kill it any other way.
Yeah, I didn't think about that because the only people that can take it out are red and black. Black with the cost reduction, destroy. Red, purple. No, there's nothing in purple that can touch it. Well, except for 10-drop Kaido. Other than that, like, that's it. And 10-drop Kaido costs a lot just to get rid of this one card.
Yeah.
That I could probably bring out next turn again. Like, that's nuts.
The same could be said for black because the guy essentially has to set up a Kuzan, 10-drop or a 4-drop, reduce. Like, he has to have some kind of setup. Red, you can do all of that stuff in the same turn that you want to interact with it. Whereas like these other strategies, if you can even do something, you have to prepare for it. And that in itself is super irritating because you think about how polarizing that is when you have back-to-back Whitebeard. Like that's literally broken. It's literally just such a no-skill card, man.
Yeah, it's definitely like I played against one dude at my locals, E-Man. And we played once. I think I killed 3 Whitebeards in a row. He played it, I killed it. Played it, I killed it. But that's a little easier with Garp. Like I had like the setup because I can do the cost reduction. But even if it was like if it was straight black, it'd be more difficult
Yeah.
because you have to play something like Ice Age or like the Kuzan to do the -4 because Ice Age is -5, and then that brings him down to 4, and then if you try and drop a Kobe, you can do that. You got to reduce it. Yeah, it gets nutty. It gets very nutty trying to take out Whitebeards or any just large characters in general. Whitebeard, Mihawk, Tin Drop Kaido, any of those ones. It definitely takes a lot of manipulation. And I never thought that was like. I get why people now are trying to rule shark it because if you aren't playing something that can destroy it, like if you don't have the out in hand or you see it coming, you're just like, I'm looking at this thing for the rest of the game. I need to figure out how to cheat my way out of this. So yeah, no, that makes sense.
See, my biggest thing about the card is one of the reasons I don't like it, and I'm kind of more like competitively like driven than you in this space. And I don't really like the card that much. I don't think it's healthy for the game because with a limited card pool, it kind of limits your deck building. And in other games like Yu-Gi-Oh, like Magic, where there's over 50,000 different cards that you can put into your deck, you have a lot of weight on your success being dependent on, making your deck. And I really enjoy that. And I think that's partially why you chose Garp, because you wanted to separate yourself from other people and you want to be able to differentiate your deck to gain a competitive edge. Well, with that card, it's just so busted that if you're playing red, I almost just don't see why you would not play 4 copies of it, like literally outside of red-green law. And you just think about how limiting the skill expression is currently in the game because, not to fault the game designers or anything, but it's a very simplistic game because we're in the very premature states of the game, with very few cards. They want to make things simple so that people can be eased into it and they can build up a player base. And, everyone can agree that they didn't expect that there would be so much demand and, such a high appreciation for the game when it first originally launched. And, for that reason, I guess maybe I'm just kind of expecting more from a competitive standpoint, whereas I feel like this card just lowers the skill expression of the game in an already not skill intensive state. And that's what I don't like about it, because it's like if you're on the play and you have that card on curve, on 9 Dawn, the most impactful turn that you're going to be able to play it, it just feels so unfair. It feels like the only way that the other person can stop you from, gaining initiative is if you also have your own in response. And there are even some caveats to that, because as the person who establishes theirs first, then on the following turn, if I'm playing something like Red Luffy, which I've been using recently, I could use a Gordon and another Gordon and an Otama, other modifiers to reduce your Edward Newgate. Now I'm pressuring you with mine and yours is removed. It creates so much tempo for you. And what I like to say about the OPO2 meta is we're in a race-based meta. And what I mean by that is, in set 1, we saw a high valuation of 1-cost blockers because they do so much for requiring very small amount of resources, And with Whitebeard, that's one of those cards that kind of just puts us into a race-based meta. Because as we saw in set 1, the meta was largely shaped around the 8-drop Captain Kidd because of limited removal for it. Well, the same can be said for 9-drop Edward Newgate and his new friends, 3-cost Vista, and as well, there are a couple other honorable mentions that I just can't remember off the top of my head because red is just so freaking degenerate for no reason.
Mass Deuce.
Yeah, Mass Deuce. It's just so irritating, man, because it feels like that kind of lowers the skill expression of the game because the removal is just so non-existent for the other colors. Like, you have to administer so many resources to answer your opponent's threats, whereas, in red, all of your cards that can kill something also do it for no cost. And when we think about what I'm saying about being in a race-based meta, if you're the person who's putting out a 1-cost blocker and I play a Vista for 3, it's not the fact that you lost a Dawn. It's that I established a threat and killed your card without having to expend any resources. And if I'm playing Zoro, that's even better because my
Yeah.
Vista is now a natural attacker with a 1 Dawn investment, and I killed your card for free. So now I'm up in
Yeah, no, you're
I'm a
right.
+1 in card advantage against you, and I've generated a natural attacker, and like, it almost felt like your 1 drop blocker was a fake card. And that's why very early on in set 2, I started lowering the amount of 1 drop law blockers I played in my blue deck to like 2 copies. And I even thought about
Sure.
going to 0 just for that same reason, And that's where Whitebeard contributes to that problem, because it's like, you think about it, what is one of the weaknesses of developing a tall board versus something that is wide? And what I mean by tall board is like a big threat like an 8 cost kid or a Edward Newgate versus a Zoro who's making all these small 1 drops that are just pushing up to 5. The one caveat to that is if you just have one big beat stick, I could use a cheap blocker to just mitigate the impact you have on the board. Well, with Edward
Yeah.
Newgate, he just answers the counter to himself. And that's just freaking unfair.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I've done it where I had Otama in hand, and I just used Otama to bring down the cost of a Marco to
Yeah.
3,000. Pop Marco with Whitebeard, and dude's like, "What am I supposed to do with this? Like, I just killed Marco. Are you gonna bring it back and waste the card? Because if so, I'm gonna kill it again. You know what I mean? Or now it's a useless blocker at this point." And that was like the only thing that really stopped him or stopped me from taking it, because he could have attacked, or I could have attacked, and then he could have blocked and then saved himself. But at that point, I had taken 2 big attacks, because only it was a 2 Don investment to kill. Well, it took me 3 Don to kill his Marco, 1 for Otama, and then 2 on Edward himself for 12,000. And then the remaining 7 just went on the leader, and it's like, you got it or not?
For sure.
It's like 12, 2 12 hits. You got enough for 12K twice, and he did not. He did not.
That's
Yeah, no,
facts.
it's definitely, yeah.
And that's difficult to combat unless you're playing something like
Yeah.
Whitebeard where you can have a radical beam and a guard point. If you want to block that attack, you have to allocate so many resources. It's almost just not worth it. And when we think about the game in its core components, it's really just like, a math equation in some ways. And at that point, when you start looking at the math, it just seems more and more unfair because your situation about removing the Marco and being so Dawn efficient, that is just, uncomparable to playing blue. You don't really get Dawn advantage like that, or even something like purple. If you're going to get an advantage of tempo like that, you have to draw this one specific card that's generating you a Dawn every turn. And,
Yeah, no, yeah, right, yeah.
to build
You
off
get the
of that,
Onigashima.
I just wanted to mention that in our original coaching session, one of the reasons that I highlighted you should play the 9-drop Whitebeard is because theoretically, when you're playing a 2-color leader, he almost mitigates the disadvantage you have of being a 4-life leader, because essentially on that turn that he's played, you're creating a safety net for the other person to push for game. It almost always feels like if the guy is a high-level player and his hand is good enough to be able to, just wait a turn and not take the risk of pushing for game, he's going to hold off. So it's essentially
Right.
just buying you a turn. And at that point, if you're protecting yourself from taking no damage for a turn, you're almost like you're playing a 5-life leader at that point. But since you're dipping into 2 colors, then you're just in an inherent advantage based off of, just pure paper. Like you have both colors
Yeah.
and you're 5-life.
You know, it makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to think of just times where I played Whitebeard and how it like worked out for opponents, where it's like I've done one, like especially on the sim. I play a lot in the sim. Like I play Whitebeard, he plays a Whitebeard in response, and then he attacks, my leader with his leader at 7,000, just 1K drop. Okay, good. And then now I just get to, how am I going to kill his Whitebeard now? Because at that point now I'm sitting on my own Whitebeard, 10 Don, and usually at that point I have a way to destroy his Whitebeard. So I'll drop like a Suru and then just Don up my leader
Yeah.
until his Whitebeard's down to like 3 cost or 4 or 5, depending on which card I have in hand to destroy it. And it's like, okay, and then kill it. And then now I've killed it. Like I played one against my buddy E-Man, and I played it. It was online. I did it as a live stream. and I brought his Whitebeard all the way down to 0. Yeah, I brought his Whitebeard all the way down to 0 because I had 5-cost Smoker. So I brought him all the way down to 0, double attacked with 5-cost Smoker. He took the 2 life. Then I attacked with Leader, and then I used Meteor Volcano to kill off the Whitebeard. And it was like, I needed Whitebeard to be 0 before I couldn't just kill him early.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like, and that's the thing. It's like, Whitebeard is very, just looking at it's very intimidating. Like when it's played, you're like, especially if you don't have an out for it. And the more you say that, I was thinking about it again. Like if I ever played a different color, because I've only played red and then red black. Like I made a Doflamingo deck just to test out, and same thing with a kid deck, but I only played maybe 3 matches with him. And I was like, I don't really like this play style for me. But just really thinking about this, really, I can see that because whenever I'm playing the game, like if I'm playing like with Garp, I'm like, okay, how am I going to destroy this? Or okay, what do I want to destroy? How am I destroying this? Because the whole plan for me, the deck is to destroy with just make sure you have nothing.
Yeah.
Take everything and give you nothing. So it's like, what am I going to destroy? So when I have the cards in hand, it's like, okay, I just need this to destroy that. Okay, that's going to die. That's dying. That's dying. And I can see it being very hard or difficult for my opponent because like, yeah, very oppressive because like my opponent's like, if you see me adding Don, like let's say I add 2 Don to Garp, and now I brought your 5 cost down to 3, you may be thinking, well, he's going to use Kobe and kill it, and it's like which is great for the mind games where now you have to decide, do you want to block with this character or not, and like do you want to take the risk of not doing it? So if I'm playing against like Law a lot and they have the 5 drop Law, bring it down to 3, and I'm like, okay, attack, for 7, and then they just take the life, and then I attack for 7 again with something else, they just take the life. And it's like, oh, okay, Kobe or Meteor Volcano, and just like, you should have just blocked when you had the chance. But of course, you didn't know that you were playing the wait and see if he has that type of thing. But at that point, you took the life or you wasted cards out of hand, and I still killed your card. And having that option every turn is very, very disheartening.
9-drop Whitebeard is broken. If you've gotten this far in the video, comment Whitebeard should be banned because the card's broken as fuck. And to build off of that, I just want to mention, now that I think about it, I feel like Garp is the one leader where you actually have a little bit of mind games associated with having that 9-drop, because you think about every other deck, like I mentioned, if you're playing Whitebeard, if you see a Straw Hat card from the guy, then you're going to assume he has 9-drop in his deck, or if he just chooses to go first, because if he has Stage in his deck, he's going to choose to go second. Secondly, if you're playing versus Zoro or Luffy, which are both popular options, you know the guy has 4 Whitebeard. But with Garp, you do not know if the guy actually plays 9-drop, because there's no, there's no list out there for people to net deck from. And, at this point, it's just like, when the guy has 9-drop in his deck, you're playing differently if you're a high-level player, because what I like to tell people in my sessions is the highest level of skill expression in the game currently is all based off of anticipation. Knowing what potential lines the other person could play is what's going to allow you to make the most effective decisions. And not knowing whether or not your opponent has a 9-drop Whitebeard is a huge advantage for you as Garp. And I would honestly say that, like, as your friend, from an objective standpoint, I don't think that Garp is in an amazing position with the current card pool, but it's definitely one of those leaders, similarly to Blurplecroc, where it probably has one of the highest longevities later on in the game, because the one problem is that, like, I feel like a lot of the cards don't specifically, like, synergize. Like, the black cards don't specifically hard synergize with the red cards, but the way that you're able to win right now with Garp, I think a lot of it is based on the fact that not many people know how to play against it, and there's a certain, surprise factor and a certain advantage you have going into a tournament where people don't understand how to play your deck and people don't understand how to play against it. For me, for example,
Yeah.
I saw a wide amount of success with the blue deck in set 1 and in set 2, and up until the Peoria regional, I had won a case tournament with it. I had won, several like 30 to 40 person tournaments, and I'd won as many events that I could actually go to with it, and I was at like 13 out of 17 local tournament wins with blue. And the main reason I feel like I was able to do that and people in the Japanese meta were not able to do so is because here everyone's net decking off of those people overseas. And, a lot of that has to do with the fact that not many people could find content of the blue deck in that region. And, part of that has to do with the fact that Jinbei wasn't available to them until
Yeah.
they got it as a magazine promo, which from what I understand came out very late in their meta. And also just the fact that people over there, they are more aligned with playing what is the best deck. Whereas some
Right.
people over here, they're actually trying to force new things, even if they don't necessarily believe that it's the best deck. And that allowed me to win with the blue deck. But my point about this is, as people started to net deck me, because I'm the GOAT and, no one's out here doing it like me,
Why wouldn't
I
you?
would honestly say that the deck just started having a high depreciating value. At least 15 to 20 people came up to me in the Peoria, Illinois regional and told me, hey man, you're the reason I started playing Doflamingo. And, that's cool. But at the same time, I'm like, get off my deck. I'm trying to win, boys.
I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win.
The blue mirror match is so polarizing. Whoever has Dracul Mihawk on curve, whoever has Dracul Mihawk on the play, just automatically wins because there's no answers to that card in blue. There's literally no removal cards in the entire deck.
Yeah,
And
you just got to sit with it. Yeah.
the way I lost in the Peoria regional and what stopped me from getting top cut and being able to play it out was that I lost to the guy who got fourth because he had 3 Mihawks in his deck and I played 4 because I was expecting a lot of blue and he just drew all 3 of his back to back to back. And it didn't really matter that I played 4, because he had his, I didn't have mine. And thinking about that, I'm just like, dang. At that point, blue just took a big hit and became as non-viable as a lot of the Japanese people and as a lot of the Asian people speculated because, I think it's one of those decks where if the mirror match is not very good, then you can't expect to do well with it. Similarly to Kaido, Kaido does very powerful things, but I would argue that the mirror match is equally as polarizing because whoever holds their 10 drop until after the other person plays theirs just nukes their 10 drop and then they have no recovery. You think about that.
Play that waiting game of like, who's going to do it first? Who's going to do it first? Yeah.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to build a big board or a wide board because now it's that time. Like it's about to be. And that's something I had to learn a lot. I know PO1 was like, going against Kaido, don't make a big board. But playing with Garp, I'm like, I don't care. Here you go. 3 Borsalinos. That's cool. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nothing. You know what I mean? So now, like, you just start getting rid of the 10-drop Kaido, or you may play it but don't use the ability just because it's still 12,000. But it's like, at that point, like, he's not that good. You know what I mean? Like, he's not saving you. 9-drop Kaido is not saving you. Like, King's not saving you. Like, you can't kill these cards. And if I was playing with, like, the smokers, the 3-drop smokers, it's like, what are you going to do? Your whole deck is designed to kill, and you can't kill anything. So it's like the black on black mirror match is crazy because that's the way you get it. Like, here's a smoker, here's my smoker, here's Borsellino, here's my Borsellino. Just like, who's gonna make this mistake first? Yeah.
There's some polarizing things about that matchup, but I'd say it's a little bit better than these. And, my overall point is that with the blue deck and with the purple deck, like, it's one of those things where if there's not a lot of other people who are playing your same deck, then it can be really good. But if you're expecting a lot of other people to be on the deck, then it becomes way worse.
One of the things I liked that when I saw the leader Garp, and because I don't want to do meta stuff. I'm not really a big fan of like doing what everybody else does, because for me, like, if I win with it, then I didn't win, the deck won, right? Because I hear people saying all the time, like, the deck did what the deck's supposed to do. And yeah, it's great. But it's like, for me, Like I want it to be like Michael Nightwing one, not like, oh, Zoro one. No, Michael Nightwing one. So for me, that was a big thing, like to do things my way. So when I was looking at dual color leaders, even when I played, because I think I tested with like Croc or Kaido, like in the very beginning, I was just testing out like just the dual colors, and I was like, oh, okay, no one plays this. This is cool, but I was like, just couldn't get it to work. Because my thought process for the game was very like one dimensional. So playing Zoro and at the beginning was very simple, like play this card, attack, play this card, attack. It's very Yu-Gi-Oh based to me. Like here's a card, attack, boom, boom, boom. But as I've grown into playing the game and figured out like the mindset about it, because like I said, I hadn't played TCG since I was like 12. So getting into like a whole different thought process of playing the game, now I can start strategizing differently, thinking differently when it comes to it. But for me, like with a dual color leader, just in general, you have two pools to pick from. That's the beauty of it. It's like, let's say there's 100 cards in red and 100 cards in black, right? I have 200 cards to pick from versus just red. It's only 100. So now when we sit down and you see my leader, you literally have no clue what I'm doing in my deck. Like, am I running 9-drop? Yes or no? Am I running 10-drop Kuzan? Yes or no? Could I be running Shanks? Probably. Could I be running Borsalino? Yes. Could I be running Hina instead of Borsalino? You never know. Like, it's just so many options to choose from. Like, could he be playing Vista? Could he be playing Nico Robin? Is he playing Otama? Is he playing Jet Pistol? It's like, it's so funny to me when people, like when I'm just playing with people, they're like, all right, well, let me just don up they put 2 Don on a character they don't want to lose to a Jet Pistol of life. And I'm like, I don't have Jet Pistol in this deck. Like this build doesn't have Jet Pistol, but they don't know that, right? And I'm not going to, I'm just, oh, yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And they'll just waste 2 Don to save anything, right? To make it 7,000 in fear of a Jet Pistol. And there's no Jet Pistol. There's none. You know what I mean? And it's like, but if I'm playing red, you know there's a Jet Pistol. Like you know for a fact it's Jet Pistol. But since it's half and half, you just don't know what's in there. And I think that to me was what the most appealing part of it was like, you don't know what's in this deck. So when I play something when people are like, oh, I didn't expect that, I'm like, well, I know you didn't, because no one plays this, like no one really plays this deck. And then why would you expect to see this card? You know, versus like when it gets just blue on blue, you know Mihawk's coming. You know Kaido, you know Kaido's coming. But it's like, I may not have any big ones in there. Like sometimes I played some builds where I had none of the big cards in it. It was like no 10-drop, no 9-drop. And I was on a 7 dudes like, I'm just waiting for the 9-drop. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't run it. He's like, oh what? You don't have Whitebeard? I was like, no. Like, what? Yeah, the biggest card I had in the deck at the time for that one was like Sakazuki. And I was like, yeah, no, just doing a bunch of small things, see how this works. And it's like, that's very fun for me. Being able to try and figure out what works and strategize and figure it out. Like the dude Diego, he got 32nd in Texas. And I think it was after the 9th round, his buddy was like, yo, you're the guy playing Garp. And he was like, my buddy just went X2 with Garp. Like, can I bring him over to talk to you? And I was like, yeah, please have him come over and tell me why he's better than me. I just want to know. So he sat down and we broke the decks down. And he was like, I'm playing this for this reason, this reason, this reason. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I see your thought process behind it. And I tried a similar build to his like the next day, and I was like, I can see how this works. Okay. And I even brought it back home and tried it. And I was like, I like this. I don't like this. So I've made some tweaks to fit more of my play style. But it's like, there's so many different ways, so many, the card pool. And as the game grows, like there's gonna be more cards just to choose from. That's what I think is so cool about having like the leaders in general. Is like the leader itself may not be great in this set it comes out in, but 2 sets from now is going to be good. Because like with Yu-Gi-Oh, like King of the Swamp, right? The card that lets you, it becomes a fusion material for anything. Well, when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, like fusions weren't really the biggest thing. Like no one really played fusions like that. So it was like, it was an okay card, but it's like no one used it. And then a dude hit me up and he was like, oh, do you have this card? I know you got a lot of old cards. And I was like, oh yeah, I do. King of the Swamp. And I was like, oh, yeah, I have like 3 of them. And he's like, oh, okay, $60 for him? And I was like, sure. Looked it up and I was like, this card is $25? I was like, why? This card is terrible. But with modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it just became more useful in this newer frame. So it's like when set 3 comes out with Garp, I know I get a Searcher for Navy, so I could use that. I know I get the red cards to come out for that one. As it continues to grow, I just have more cards to add to it. And you never know what's going to happen because like, even still, like, let's say we're in set 10, right? And each color is 1,000 cards. The staple of cards going in someone's deck in this meta. But it's like you never know what could happen with a dual color leader, especially one that hasn't been explored that much. Because with Law, it's probably gonna be the same card. It's the same deck. Somebody top with it, and everybody's playing Law. Right? I think that happened. That happened with you when you were playing online. You said you went against like 3 or 4 Laws. Like Law wasn't that big until Michael E won, and then once he won in Peoria, everybody's playing Law, and then now Luffy took over. Everybody's playing Luffy. Whitebeard, everybody's playing Whitebeard, and it's like the people that do net decking, like that's just what they do. That's cool. They want to win. But for me, I don't find joy in doing that. And for me, like if I lose, I don't want to say the deck lost. I lost. Like the deck didn't lose. I just lost. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't play it right. Or there's adjustments I need to make because I made it. So since I made it, I did something wrong. Versus like, oh, this guy's deck is some trash. I don't get it and stuff like that. And I like that, just having that ability to really express myself in a deck with my build. Because like, I guess it would be like cars. People like, into modifying cars. It's like, okay, well, everybody's using the same stock build of this car, but now I added this and changed it up, and now it's my car. You know what I mean? It's different. It's my 10-second car versus your 10-second car. Yeah, I think that's very fun for me. It's just, I love, like, I've only seen maybe 3 Garp builds on the, maybe 2 or 3, if that, on the One Piece top decks. And that's very satisfying to me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, cool. Because when my name gets up there, it's not going to be like, oh, expected, it's Zoro. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, this guy made it, and I'm like, yes, I did it. I did it. So like set 3, I'm probably gonna stick with Garp, and since like people love me and love Garp, I think I just been my guy for a while. I just got to stick with him, because I can't let the bros down. Can't let them down.
For sure. I think you made some really great points there. I think you couldn't have said it any better. In fact, guys, in the same way that all of you simps need to stop putting modern day women on a pedestal, we need to stop putting these people who are winning major events with a net deck list and don't even know anything about the game and won a major event playing Zoro on a pedestal. Bro, that literally takes no skill. I can literally just go through the deck list from memory. Everybody needs 4 Nico Robin, 4 Whitebeard. Just take all the cards that say KO something 3 or less, and then put those in the deck. Max 4 copies. Okay, now add all of the 2Ks that also function as a utility card that are not available in any other color for some reason. Add those to the deck. Okay, now win the die roll. Like, it's literally just no skill. And that's one of the things that irritates me so much, because there haven't been that many opportunities for people to enter these major events and, like, express your skill. And, like, for someone like me, I played in 3 major events so far. I went X3 at the first one, I went X2 at the second one, and X3 at the third one. So I've gotten so close at every single one that I played in. And
you got cheated in one of them.
I did. I mean, I did, but at the end of the day,
X1 in the quarter. X1 in the quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I do like to not, like, use excuses like that, because I could have, like, technically, like, caught the person in the midst of them cheating, so I really can't, like, put anything on anyone else. And, at the end of the day, like, that's what's important to me, is doing my best. And, like, I'm not dissatisfied with that, because I think that it is still super difficult to go X2 with blue, because blue is really not that good. And you think I went against 4 Law, which is literally the worst matchup. Like, I'm happy with that, but, what you're saying, that does just add more value to the accomplishment. Like, and the same thing with, like, for you, in some ways, you kind of give off vibes that you're trying to, like, be transparent as a casual person. But I would say that the mindset that you're having is honestly more competitive and honestly just on a higher wavelength than a lot of these people who are net decking. Because you think about it and it's like, why do you think that the guy who went top 32 with Garp got top 32? It's because he innovated the game in a way where he differentiated his deck from other people in order to gain a competitive edge. And that's essentially what you've been doing with Garp. And you think about that, you're like, I'm not playing meta. Well, if you find something that's meta defining, then you're shaping the meta around you. And I think a lot of people who just copy someone's deck list and don't understand like the purpose of certain cards in the deck, or just don't understand it as well as other people and just get a top, they kind of just forget that. They're in what I like to call a fixed mindset, where I would consider your way of thinking a growth mindset, because you're
Hey,
looking to adapt. You know what I'm saying?
hey,
And the
I
fact
take
that,
it.
you're looking for the long-term growth. You know that, these two color leaders are going to, exceed expectations in the long run, where we've already been seeing a lot of the one color leaders have been
Yeah,
hitting a plateau. Let's look at OPO3, for example. The red Luffy deck is almost abysmal, and a lot of people just consider it like a tier 2, tier 3 deck, not because it's necessarily bad, but because we have these other red leaders that are just slightly better at doing the same game plan as what Luffy does.
yeah,
When you have
yeah.
something like a Garp or a Blurple Croc that has a unique effect and impact on the game, those are going to be way more difficult to be power crept. And if you have early reps on them now, I would argue that eventually when those cards become into the meta, they become a meta contender, that you would have a stronger advantage over other people who are just then starting the deck, And that's been apparent with red green law. Everybody wants to sit there and be like, hey, don't start playing law. You don't have any reps on the deck. You have to take a lot of reps. I'm like, bro, literally, it's so funny people say that, because the game is so damn simple that if you played a combo deck, then in any other card game, I would argue you don't need that many reps. And it's just so
Hmm.
funny to think about that, because, in OPO4, we've already kind of seen that there is some potential with a blue-purple crocodile leader because of the new cards we've seen, the
Yeah,
newfound
the Baroque work
removal.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the new removal in blue and the Baroque work stuff. And I would say that, let's just say hypothetically, that deck became a tier 1, deck, and a lot of people are playing it. I think it's a very difficult deck to pilot, and I have a lot of reps on it. And I would argue that if I was playing in that format right now, that I would have an inherent advantage over other people, because I played the deck whenever it was relatively bad or not meta, and I will just know the interactions more well than the other person, and just have a higher level of pattern recognition as well as processing. Because we look at these decks that have two colors, typically I would say they have more thinking involved with them, because you have access to new combinations of cards. And, coming from
Yeah.
other games, I've always found, like when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic, if you go against a sweaty person in a big tournament, if you're like taking your time, sometimes the other guy may ask you to speed up, or he could call the judge on you technically. And that's where like having those reps now on those decks where people just kind of consider them bad are going to pay off long term. We're not in it for those small gains. We're here to collect 5 serial Luffys and OPO 9.
That makes a lot of sense because as I've been playing the game more and just being consistent, like when I played with Zoro, and then because my thing was always just trying to find like the perfect like combination of cards to go in it. But as I've gotten more attuned to deck building and trying to figure out like how I want the deck to work, like with the Garp deck, I usually change maybe 1 or 2 cards. Like there's staples that are in it that aren't changing. So when I'm playing it, I know like pretty much autopilot. This is doing this. I'm doing this with this. This with this is response to this. Um, and it was just funny. So what you said about people like seeing it and wanting to play it, like after or during and after the tournament in Texas, people were like, "Yo, like after this, I'm playing Garp after this," because I just was challenging people and stuff. So some of my opponents were like, "Yo, I'm playing Garp after you. It looks fun to play this and stuff." So it's like they'll get into it and want to play it, and then because you just see how things go because no one plays it. Like when you kill their cards, like and still attack, it's like how did you do this? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I gave my leader 4 Dawn, and then now your card's really weak. I killed it with this, and then I attacked you for 9,000. It's like shit. You know what I mean? Like that's just a lot to deal with sometimes, especially if you didn't see it coming. You don't know what's happening. You're like, oh, this is a lot of potential. I think that's why Garp is so underappreciated because no one's really used it because they're like, oh, it doesn't make any sense because like it's wait till you see it. Like once you figure it out and you see how this thing goes, like I'm destroying everything you have. And people's like, I think the biggest disadvantage for Garp is just the side, having to pitch a card every time. That hurts. You know what I mean? That kind of starts lowering your resources down. But if you do it right, like Diego was doing, like, because he was saying some people, when he sees them play Kobe, right, even in a straight black smoker deck or Sakazuki deck or in Garp, they play it too early. You know, you're using it too early. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because I would use Kobe just to whatever, just murk it. It's all gone. But at that point, I'm wasting cards early to do these things, or just save it for later and use it. Because Kobe's more cost effective than Sakazuki in most cases, pretty much all cases. So it's like, why not? You know what I mean? Just do it later. I have a theory what's going to happen with the game as it develops is they're going to release cards that are colorless. So every color can touch it. So I'm thinking like something, and obviously there's no basis on this happening, but my thought is like they'll release something, let's say like Pot of Greed, right? Like, so it'll be a Pot of Greed kind of card, or the Devil Fruit. So it'll be like Gum Devil Fruit, and it has no color attachment to it. So for 2 Don, you draw 2 cards, right? And then there's like the other fruit. So I've never watched the show. Right? I've never seen a single episode in its entirety. I've only seen fight scenes, but I know like everybody has the fruits and stuff. So it's like you have this fruit, so like Beyblade fruit, right? And now with this one, it's colorless, so every deck can have it. So it allows you to like do something just very non-deck specific, like draw a card. Because I was going to say like look at a life or something like that, but it's very yellow specific. But something just general that you would need anyway, like give an extra 2,000 boost to one of your characters or something like that, or one of your cards cannot be KO, just stuff like that. So I think it'd be really dope if they came up with something like that, where it was what was it? Like a Sinister Serpent, the Sinister Serpent card, where it's like, okay, cool. You know, like when it's in the graveyard, it comes back to your hand. So if they ever release anything like that for black or red, it'll be insane, because now at that point, right, that could be the card I pitch every turn to just use my 5-cost Garp, or and I can rest him every turn and just keep killing your card. It's just like, oh, it's the same card over and over again. So if they ever do something like that, I can understand it being limited to one, like Sinister Serpent was when I played Yu-Gi-Oh! But it's like things like that I think are going to happen as the game grows. It's going to get more advanced. They're going to start adding in more rules and more trickery and stuff like that. But if they start releasing cards that allow these kind of advantages of like, if this card's in your graveyard, just add it back to your hand. You know what I mean? Like it's a 1-for-0 kind of card, no counter, no nothing. That's the only ability. And it's only good in like a certain niche, which would be black cards, you know, and just like, boom, you drop this and it's just really good, but you're limited to having one in the deck, that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's not searchable by anything. It doesn't have a type, put restrictions like that on. So it's really hard to get it. But I think things like that would make it awesome. But that's the cool part, I think, about playing the game and like building your own deck, is you find out these fine tuning things. It's like, I can't look at a deck list from Japan and say, this is what they're running. You know what I mean? This is what everybody's doing. I just can't do that. When I chose Garp, I did that. One, because I thought his ability was the best ability for a leader, and then I can't do that. Like I don't have that ability. So, I'm losing a lot. Let me go see what someone else is doing. No one else is doing it, so I got to do it. You know what I mean? That feels good to me. Backing myself into that corner, because like all I can do is move forward. You know, I can only achieve greatness. I can't go backwards. And people are like, oh, well, you just suck because you're playing a good deck. You just suck. Versus like people are like, oh, I don't suck because I won a decent number of tournaments like in our area with Luffy or Zoro and Luffy when I played those ones. So it's like, they're like, well, I know you're not bad. It's just the deck needs some work. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. You know, like I'm not terrible. It's just the deck.
Yeah.
I got to work on it.
Or they equate it to RNG.
Like what'd you say?
Or they equate it to RNG.
What's that, RNG?
Random number generator, as in like randomness. Yeah,
man,
like, I got unlucky.
I've seen that a lot. I've been seeing that a lot on Twitter, and I was like, I couldn't figure out what that meant. They're like, somebody was like, when you blame RNG for a game based on RNG, and I was like, is this like Dungeons and Dragons? What is RNG? I was so confused. I tried to like Google it, but I couldn't see like nothing popped up in Urban Dictionary.
He had a jet pistol in life. That's an RNG. Like I couldn't control that, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
to your point, that's one of the most irritating things to me about the current game. I've touched on this in my most recent podcast, which will be out at the time of this episode, is that Bandai just releases people's deck lists in the top 16 in America without their consent. And I really hate that because it's just already like, it's driving the problem that everyone just sees as apparent. You know, for me, it's not that like I really just need to win a serial Luffy. Like, I don't care about the money. It's not about that. I just want to top one time to prove to myself, like, you know, that I'm an expert in this source. Especially since, you know, like, as you and me are going to be growing to the top, you know, just
Yes, sir.
kind of lapping all these basement dwellers. It's kind of just like, you know, nice to have an accolade to like separate ourselves from the pack. It's just like, it feels so difficult right now because there's so many RNG aspects, and you just know that everyone is net decking. And it's like, you know, whenever I went 7-2 with Dofi, it was kind of like a blessing in my case because my deck list wasn't given out, and that's where it added more value to me releasing my video. You know, it's like other games kind of killed the deck profile as a whole because people want to put out their cards individually, and nowadays people can't wait that long. They just want to screenshot and leave a large majority of the people. And, you know, with how tournament organizers just release the top 16 deck list, literally just putting your name by it, and then other people are making videos of your deck with the list that's given out. It's just like, okay, as a creator, like someone like yourself or me, it's just like, dang, okay, that's just something you should not be focusing on. And I would strongly suggest that anyone who's a creator right now, like, stop making deck profile videos because no one watches those. You know, if you're trying to grow, if you just want to have fun, like, I mean, do whatever you want. But in terms of growth, those don't help you. And I see a lot of people try to do that in other games. Like, there are people who have dedicated channels just traveling to major events and posting deck lists like that. Like, you know, I posted some deck lists at the Peoria, Illinois regional, and I would say that all of the deck lists I compiled were actually unique lists. And this was towards earlier in the format where things weren't as solved. You know, I posted a Zephyr list. Like, no one's playing Zephyr. I posted a guy who got top 4 with Kinemon, and he actually explained the card choices, which is something you can't get from just looking at the deck list. That's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have because, you know, when I break down my blue list, I explained, okay, well, I decided to play Gecko Moria in the online regional because I was expecting there to be a lot of Whitebeard people who were going to try to cheat me. And I found that sometimes even if the guy cheats, if you have a vanilla Gecko Moria and you're playing Dofi, sometimes you just win anyway. And that's the only reason I want to play Dofi because sometimes you can just beat a guy even if he adds a random card to his hand because you're so favored. But in the in-person one, I actually played the three cost 5k Edward Weevil vanilla because I found that card was better into every other deck, and I didn't want to build my deck just to beat one matchup, which I'm already favored. That's kind of a win more situation, but you would never know that if I didn't explain it. That's something that a lot of people don't understand because I see a lot of people going on Twitter, screenshotting things from people in Asia, like, you know, just doing stuff like that. And then they're like, yeah, just got the dub. It's like, bro, you didn't really do anything. Whereas if you actually top with Garp, number one, I'm sure that guy's video has a ton of views on it, you know. I know you're getting views. You literally created a niche within the Garp leader itself. And you think about how saturated it is. Like, I got in the early, like, iterations of the English version where there weren't that many people. But now, if you're just now joining, it's so much more difficult to differentiate yourself. And I think, like, you know, since you have that niche, that really just like benefits you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like that's how I felt when people were like, yo, like, you're the guy that plays Garp. Because there were 4 people that I knew that played Garp that were there. So it was myself, Diego, who I found at the end, and then 2 other dudes. They're like, yeah, I'm playing Garp. And that was it. Like, it was only 4 of us out of 800 that, you know, that I ran across. So it's like having such a small percentage of a leader is pretty awesome, and it does niche down, and it just allows you, because like, again, like, everybody, if you just type in Luffy, red Luffy, everybody has red Luffy. It's like, it's very it's just saturated. So
And it's
from
the
a
same
content
deck list
creation,
too.
same deck list, just different person talking. You know, like it's so from a content creator standpoint, playing Garp, and that's not what I thought of when I was making a deck. I just wanted it to be my own. But now that you say that, it does make a lot of sense. It's a total niche down because it's something that no one is playing. You know, like I thought a lot of
Yeah.
people were gonna be playing Garp because he's so good, but apparently it didn't happen. So it's like it's a niche within like an already niche thing, and that's where like so with me getting that mat and everything, like it just kind of is what it is. Like I'm just gonna have to play Garp. Like this is just my guy because I don't want to make other videos of like here's Rush Zoro because everybody has Rush Zero. Like it was cool in the beginning
Facts.
because the game was new, but now it's like I don't want to see this every time. Like it's the same cards every time. Like there's no experimentation with it. It's just the same thing every time. The game's gonna play the exact same way. Who gets Whitebeard first? You know, it's just like it's the same thing every time, and it's difficult for me to win sometimes against it. But it's like it's just the same thing. It's like I know what's coming.
That's facts.
But yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And touching back on what you said about the whole like releasing your deck profile, I felt the same way because I told you I played like Beyblade, so like
Yep.
competitive Beyblade. And I remember like they would have the winning combinations, and I was like, I don't like that they keep like that you have to like share like what the winning combinations are. I'm like,
The tournament organizer and not the actual
yeah,
person? Okay.
yeah, it's like in when you do the reporting for it, you have to put in like the winning combination so they can see like which parts win a lot in case it needs to be banned and all this other stuff. But it's like I don't like that because people just see, oh, this is what people are winning with. Let me just make this same thing. And it's like, where's your originality? So like so there was one combination and it was a left spin, right? It's good as spin equalization. So
Okay.
when one's left, one's right, you know, this one just did a really good job of beating everything else. It can beat same spin, opposite spin. It was really good. And like everybody was using it. And I refused to use this. I was like, I'm not using this thing. I was like, I want to beat it. You know what I mean? Like, what can I use to beat this?
Yeah.
So I went to like 3 or 4 different combinations trying to figure out like what I think could work to beat it until I found one that beat it like 70, 80% of the time, right? When I brought it out, it dogged it every time. It just dogged it. And they were like, what the hell is this? Right? So it was one of the things where they were just like, what the hell is this? Then, don't you know, I go to another tournament and somebody's using my combo. And it's like, the only reason you're using it, because I beat you with it last week. So now you're like, well, obviously you must have found something special. I got to try this thing out. It was just one of those things where it's like, to me, that's satisfying where you're like, oh, well, this is what the meta is. And I'm like, this beats it. It does what yours does, but better. And it's mine. I'm the first person to use this. I did it. And it's just, to me, that's satisfying. And then when everybody starts to copy, I'm like, okay, what can I use to beat this thing now that I made? You know, stuff like that. But releasing the deck profile, I think is definitely, and that's another thing. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like I get why people do it. You know, you find a deck profile, you release it online. You know, first, it's like the news. You know, it's not first to be right. It's just the first to get it out. And I get it. It gets the views. People are looking for the stuff like who won and everything.
I don't think it gets very many views, to be honest with you.
Well, they get the views, but the retention's not there. I guess the best way I'll put it.
If you get first, maybe. But for people who don't get first, then no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like if you're not the first one, if you're not first or last, Ricky Bobby, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like if you're the first person to drop the deck profile, everybody's going to be like on it. They'll be screenshotting your stuff, going to it, like you said. But if you're like the second or third, it's not happening. So like what I did when I went to one of the online ones, I actually recorded my video. I was like, this is the deck I used to go undefeated.
Yeah.
In the online regionals, right? And I did my own deck profile and everything. And I was like, when I go undefeated, I'm gonna release this immediately. Like, bam! The first thing that goes up is this. And then when I didn't go undefeated, I was like, all right, well, okay, all right. But it's like for me, I was like, I'm gonna prep beforehand. So when it happens, right, I'm the first one to release my deck. Like it's already online. It already has a thumbnail. It's already unlisted. So as soon as like I get placed, I can just change the title. You know what I mean? To like, I got top 32 or top 16 or whatever. I got second place and just hit boom immediately. I'm the first person to do it. Versus like giving someone else the opportunity, because that happens. I watched it a lot. Like people would just be like, "Oh, okay, what'd you play with? Hey, hurry up, let me have a seat. I want to be the first one to release it." And it's like you want to get it out first, but they don't take the time to ask the person like, "Why did you choose this?" They're just like, "Okay, spit it out, spit it out, spit it out."
See, those are the ones I want to watch.
Yeah, I want the ones like where you're telling me like, why did you pick this card?
Yes.
Like, why this card? Versus like 2 of this, 3 of this, 4 of this, and like, okay, cool, great, thanks. You know what I mean? Like, essentially you just use that person. Like you just use them just to get views and gave them nothing. Like at least take the time to talk to them, understand the thought process, and just like really get. That's why I really like when Diego and I chit chat. It was like,
Yeah.
I play the deck you play, and it's only us, right? It's like we're 50% of the 4 people that were here, so it's just us, and it's like him explaining it to me, and then me asking questions, and him saying, "Oh, I like why you do this. I think actually that's a good choice and stuff." Was really nice because it's a actual conversation. Like, and when I was
Yes.
recording the video, my camera was still set up where it was from my match before, and like I forgot to plug in my external microphone and stuff and mic him up because I wasn't thinking about making the video. It was like, just teach me how you did this. Just having to straight up like, please teach me. Like, what did you do? And I like those kind of things because it resonates more to me, and I just find it to be more enjoyable that way. So when people are just like the company just releasing the deck list like immediately, I get it, because that's what people want to see. But it's like it kind of to me like it loses value. Like, why did they choose this? Especially if it's something different. If it's the same thing like Luffy, the exact same build, whatever. But it's like when there's something different in it, why is it different? You know what I mean? Because to me, it's like
Facts.
somebody's like, oh, well, I teched in this one card. So like I teched in one Otama. To me, that's not really that big of a difference. Like you took
Yes.
out one of this 4 thing you have and just put in one. Like, okay, cool. Like it's not like you really. That happened to me when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh on
You
the.
could not draw at the whole event. I've seen that happen so many times.
I was playing this one guy on because so when I hadn't played trading cards in a while, I lied because I did play like the dueling book, like the
Yeah.
simulator thing on. So I played that when I was in college every once in a while, just because like, oh, what am I doing between classes? Let me play some. But it wasn't like a serious like in the thing, and I only played with the old cards I had. So to me, I was still in the 12-year-old mindset of playing the game. Nothing really changed in the cards. But I remember I was playing this one guy, and he was playing I don't know, 1,000 hours of strict, the whole chaos control type of setup. And then he was like, man, your deck sucks. And I was like, yeah, I just made a lava golem deck because I just like lava golem. I was just testing it out. I was like, the deck you're using is pretty much card for card the deck I used when I was 12. And he was like, no, it's different. I have a different engine in it. And I was like, maybe, I guess. I don't know what you're talking about, but like every card you played is the cards I had when I was 12. And I have it in my deck box in my room back home. Like nothing about this is different because the card pool is limited that you can choose from. So it's not like you're teching in this crazy card. Like you probably switch one card for another. It's like, woo, you know what I mean? So to me, that's one of the things when it comes to like deck list releasing. Like people just copy and then they put in one card and say, well, this is my deck now. Now it's the same deck from this other guy. You just
That's
traded
facts.
out one card. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you just switched out one card. Like, woo, like woo. But no, like it's definitely because I remember for me I saw one deck list my entire Yu-Gi-Oh playing career when I was younger.
Yeah.
And it was like in a magazine because my mom worked at like the magazine company, and it was like the magazine of like the kid that won like some big Yu-Gi-Oh event. And I was
Yes.
like, oh, okay, cool. And I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I have all these cards. That's cool. That's how my deck looks now. Nice.
Wait,
and I was like,
what?
the whole gist
You're
of it.
insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's really awesome. Like, oh, he won. Like, oh, okay. And that was just really dope. And then, yeah, I didn't realize deck lists were a thing until I got older. I was like, oh, you just look it up because that's unfair. You know what I
Bro,
mean? Like,
I'm
I
so
think it's-
jealous. I wish I was around during the magazine era. That must have been
Dude,
so
magazines
lit.
was crazy. Yeah, so like this was the time where, because I'm 33, so this was like the internet for me. I remember when the internet came out, as old as that sounds. Like I was around when the internet like was new. So it's like magazines were how you got cheat codes, for video games and stuff like that. Like you didn't just go online and find cheat codes. You got them at the magazines, and
Yep.
like you didn't know like what your favorite musical artist was doing unless you saw it in the new magazine. So it's like for me, like getting that, I probably still have it in my mom's house somewhere. Like looking at it, it's just like so great. Like, oh, this is what they're running. This is so cool. Like, wow, that's the only one I'd ever seen. And like even when I went to regional tournaments and stuff for Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't remember deck lists being uploaded anywhere. But then
Yeah.
again, I was a kid, so I wasn't looking for these type of things. But it's like if anybody I played, it was never the same deck. Because it's funny. So was it the starter deck Zoro, right? The red starter deck Zoro that like nobody played OPO1. It wasn't until I saw the deck list for Michael E online that everybody that was playing Law now had this card in there. I'm like, since when? You know what I mean? Like, since when did everybody play this one law? I mean, this one zero that no one's ever played. Like, I've never seen a single person play in OPO one. But now, and like you've been playing law since OPO one, but now you have law on your deck. Like, you copy this tech. You copy this man's tech. So
Bro.
it's like things like that. Just like,
That's so irritating because, like,
yeah,
I just wanted to win with blue so bad for other reasons because people were saying I couldn't win with it. But I always was just thinking, like, a red-green law, like, dude, the build where you play 8-drop kid, people had so much success with that in Japan and in Asia. But for some reason, everyone was just copying Michael E. And I'm pretty sure Michael E. was copying someone else from Asia. Because I've seen people in Asia do that too. And like, not to take anything away from him, but I'm just saying, like, I try to tell people so much to try out the 8-cost kid build. Because it's even more broken with how many people play blue in the USA. If you're playing the control 8-cost kid build and you go against a blue person, they literally just cry. Like, it's literally just not even fair. And that's the story in every matchup. Because you got to think, you know, 8-drop kid is still one of the most unfair cards in the game. And a lot of people are like, well, like, it's not as broken now. Well, when the other guy doesn't know that you have it because Michael E. doesn't play it, so the other guy probably doesn't have it, then it's even more busted. Because then it's one of those things, like just how we said about Whitebeard, like, you need to prepare for it.
yeah, like you gotta, like, if I was playing against Kid, I knew 8-drop Kid was coming, so I would hold off on using Otama for round or for anything else. Like, she's not been used to 2K. Oh, I have a jet pistol. Otama jet pistol are sitting in hand this entire game until this 8-drop comes. Then once it comes, Otama jet pistol. I've been saving up for this one setup, and it's like if you don't know that that card's available or it's in the deck, you may pitch, the card you need to save yourself early, thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna need it. Like, this happened to me when just playing with Garp. Like, I did Suru as a 2K counter, and her ability is like on play -2. So pretty much Otama just for cost. And it's like, I'm like, oh, you know what? Isn't playing anything big enough yet, whatever. And then I'll ditch it. And then next turn, here comes something I'm like, I needed Otama. I needed Suru. Like, dang it, I got rid of her. Because I didn't know what was coming in the deck.
Yes.
So no, you're right. It's like, if you don't know what's coming, you either start releasing cards that you may need or holding on the cards that you should have let go of a while ago, because you're not going to need it in this set. And it's like having a deck list, sending across from somebody and they're playing a deck and you're like, oh, okay, they probably copied this one guy's deck. You know what to hold off for. Because there's really no, like, I guess, with ingenuity or innovation really happening with decks, because people are just going with, like, this is what's working. I know it works. I need to stick with it.
Yes, bro. And that's
that's funny. That's very funny.
And it's just like, to build off of that, if you're the person who's playing that build, I think a lot of the people think that 8-drop kid is not good anymore. We literally saw the person who won the Australian regional played the Eustace Kid deck, and the guy actually won the finals against his worst matchup, Red Luffy, and that's a best 2 out of 3 game series. So to say that that is like not a viable card is literally just blasphemy. And you think about, like, okay, I understand the biggest case against that card and why people don't use it as much is because in a vacuum it loses to the 9-drop. Because the 9-drop can threaten the 8-drop while potentially removing a blocker, which is what puts up the safeguards for the 8-drop. Well, to play the other side of that, when you're playing Red-Green Law, because you have 3 searchers, some people may not know this, but you can get through the deck in 7 searches. And when you're only playing 2 copies, I would argue that Red-Green Law is actually the best deck to be playing this card, because in the matchups where 8-drop is not very good, you can put it on the bottom. And since Supernovas is the highest type in your deck, it's the type in your deck that you have the highest chance to reveal the most amount of cards, you're typically going to reveal more than one Supernova. And what that also means is, since you may not need the 8-drop kit until later in the game, well, then you can bottom deck it. And if you're efficiently keeping track of how many searches you've done, then you know when you're going to get back to the 8-drop kid and you can prepare for it. And that adds so much more versatility to the card itself, to where it's there's really no negatives to it,
That's really slick.
Like, at least you should play one copy, I would argue, because, you know, worst case scenario, just bottom deck it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense. Because like when I see the 8-drop kit, I'm just like,
sometimes it just auto wins depending on the matchup. So it's like, why are you
yeah,
not
no,
playing
but,
it?
yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I don't understand what's my, yeah, no, that's a, ooh.
I just broke the
I like the
meta.
way you think.
Give me a sub for that. Pause the
I
video,
like the way you think.
smash the like button because we're out here cooking. Go over to Mike's channel, subscribe to his channel. We're going to get him to 1K or I'm going to stop giving out the value, okay? We're going on a value shortage until Mike gets to 1K, boys.
All right, so next week, the value comes back.
Gum subscribe. Gum subscribe.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Gum subscribe.
But yeah, I mean, like, I just feel like that card is just so unfair. And I feel like the red-green law deck, you would think that people wouldn't just straight up net deck when it's the deck you have the highest potential to actually differentiate. You know, you're talking about like Garp is fun because people don't have these one set lists. People have this one set list for red-green law, and there's arguably a bunch of changes you can make, and people still don't do that. So it's just so funny that people say that. And like, I'm kind of not excited for OPO3 in that regard because you see a lot of these other people, bro, they're already posting all these deck lists for OPO3. They're about to run out of content. You know, that's why like I haven't like been posting stuff like that and why I'm trying to like branch off into, you know, this different segment because like I just don't find that stuff as fulfilling and I want to do what's going to be, you know, the most like intrinsic value to me. And, you know, like this conversation is amazing. We're going to have many more of these to come as we take over the One Piece new world and ascend to the world government. But on that,
dude, it's funny you say that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
On that note, I was just going to kind of wrap things up with, you know, what are we thinking about in OPO3? What are you looking forward to? What are you, you know, not so looking forward to? And, you know, kind of what events, you know, we have coming up if you have any?
So it's funny you mentioned that because what I was going to touch on was like people ask me, what are you going to run in OPO3 or are you excited for OPO3?
Yes.
And I look them dead in the eyes and I was like, I don't know really any of the cards in OPO3. Like,
really?
I don't. Like, the cards that I know that are coming out is because people tell me this is coming. Like, the Searcher for Navy, I know that's coming. I know Big Mom's coming, and then, like, the Katakuri guy's coming because people are like, oh, check this is. But people tell me this is coming. It's not like I haven't looked it up. Or even with the sim, like, I may scroll through Red and see, oh, that looks like a new card as I'm building my guard. But I'm not reading it because I'm like, it's not in what I need yet right now. And I tell people all the time, like, I haven't built a deck for Garp in my head yet or at all for OPO3. I have not. Right. If I were to, and I did the same thing when I was running Luffy. Like the only difference that I made in the Luffy deck from OPO1 to OPO2 was I put in 4 Vistas and took out Shanks and put in Whitebeard. That was it. And I was like, because those are the only cards I knew that were coming out that people kept telling me about.
I mean, that's kind of the only thing you have to do, to be fair.
It wasn't until I watched your video about the Mass Deuce, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see that being useful. That's cool. And then, but
even that you could just not play that. Like, you could probably still good with your build.
And I was like, that's what I'm going to run. So with OPO2, like, it's the same thing. Like, I don't know what's in OPO3. Like, I know the blind guy is coming, so he's going to be like a good 8 drop, I think, 8 for 8 or something. But it's like, I don't really know. And I haven't built a deck for it.
Oh, damn. You probably will run that guy. That guy's broken as fuck.
Yeah, he makes you ditch cards out of hand. I was like, that's awesome. Like, I haven't even read the ability. I'm just like, people keep telling me these things. But one thing I tell people, like, I don't want to focus on the future because I'm not good enough in the present. Like, I don't want to say, oh, this,
that's a good point.
Set 3, set 4, I'm dropping this. Where I haven't won yet in this one, like big. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't won big in this one. Like, I get close to my own locals at my shop. Like, I'll get like 3-1, but most times I lose a lot because I'm still trying to build the deck itself to make it good. And it's like, I haven't won anything big, so I'm not focusing on like what's set 3 because I'm still in set 2. I still have a whole, another month before set 2's up. So then like set 4, and that's what comes to content. I've seen people when they're posting battles up to set 4 and stuff, and they're like, I'm tired of set 4 already. I'm looking forward to set 5. And I'm like, that's depressing. That's depressing. Like when I was at the live, at the one in Texas, people were like, yeah, I'm so tired of set 3. I can't wait for set 4. And I was like, set 3 is not, is it out? Like, am I missing something? They're like, oh no, I
Yeah.
just played a lot in the sim. And I'm like, no, that's draining. Like, I want to be pleasantly surprised. Like when I sit down and open up my boxes of set three, I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. I can build this deck. My wife said she'll play with me because she wants to use a female leader.
Okay, well
So
that's
like,
just
all right, we got
busted.
big, yeah, like a Big Mom and Nami. Like, who do you want? And then we can enjoy the game together. But it's like I haven't looked in the future or anything. Like the only time I know about new stuff really is when I'm with Zay and we do our podcast because he's like he pull up these new cars. Like, what do you think about this? I'm like, I mean, I guess it'll be good. I don't know. What's the leader supposed to go with? I don't know anything about this. Like I'm not focusing on the future because I'm focused on the present. You know, like I think there's a time and place for future, but like for this card game for me, it's all about present. Because what they say dogs or humans have like the curse and the gift of foresight and
Uh-huh.
hindsight, and that's what just riddles us because we always live in the future, always live in the past, but like never in the present. But like dogs are just always in the present. You know what I mean? Like animals are always kids are always in the present. Like kid hurts themselves, you give them a boo boo kiss, and they're back to playing. They just forgot about them hurting themselves. So like I try to think like that when I'm playing this game. Like, what am I doing now? What am I at this moment? What can I do right now? Like, what cards can I choose from? Yeah, so it's like
That's
I don't
fair.
know. Like for me, set three is like it ain't here yet. You know what I mean? It's not here.
Yeah.
Like I would probably look at it if like with Ohio, because I'm going to that one in Ohio. So I know OPO3 is the pre-release of that weekend, and then pre-release at my shop is going to be the Tuesday when I get back. But like I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about anything anybody's playing. Like I would look at it if I had to say, okay, what are people going to start playing now? Let me look at some of these deck lists that people are going to probably play against me. But like, I don't have to worry about that. So it's like, okay, this is what you got. Still got OPO two. I know these cards. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I
But
completely agree with you.
yeah.
But to play devil's advocate, I will say the one thing that can kind of like, I guess, like, vouch for those people who are in that mindset is like some of these tournaments. Like for me, for example, I got into 2 out of 4 of the online events that became available last Friday at the time of this recording, and those are OPO3 because you have to register for those
fair, yeah.
2 to 3 months in advance. And at that point, you know, for some of those people, a lot of people couldn't get into tournaments that are, you know, still ongoing. While there may be a few events left in this format, for a lot of us, we didn't get into those based off of sheer, you know, popularity and there
value.
being a cap.
Yeah.
So if you're only going to be able to play in big events and you're trying to be competitive, like the only big events you're going to be in are OPO3, well, then I can understand why you would want to start playing that because you want to gain a competitive edge over people as fast as possible. Because just like we've talked about today, as the format continues and people become more comfortable with these strategies that they're net decking and stuff, a lot of that like competitive edge you've gained kind of just appreciates over time. And I think the beginning of the format is like the highest chance of you being able to differentiate yourself as a player.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can see that. I didn't think of it from that point where like if you're only signed up for OPO three, you know, just really because that's one thing
I
about
hate that
online
though.
events.
I hate that that's a thing. Like, why can
But
I not
that's
just play in this format?
That's what I like and I dislike it. Like with the whole online, I get the reason why they exist, and I think they're really great. And I say it because like if you live somewhere and you don't have the currency to go flying out somewhere, right? So like I said, for my plane ticket from DC to Texas was like 500, right? And I could have gone a cheaper route, flown like a cheaper airline and got like a 8 hour, 12 hour layover and stuff and made it for like 130. But it's like if I have, let's say I had to go to work, you know, that Monday or something, like I can't. That's just a lot of money and a lot of things I have to juggle around just for a hobby. So with online, I do like that it allows you to just do it from where you are with your resources. But what I don't like is that they cap it the way they do. And my theory, and if anybody's watching that's doing these larger events, because I think it's PPG, or I think it's PPG. They said theirs was just bumped up to like 1,000 for an online. But my thought process with it is like, you just run it as groups, right? So let's say with 500 people as the current setup is for online for the usual, you end up with what, top 32, right? So why not make it 4 groups, right? So there are 4 groups of 500. So it's now 2,000 players, but you only take the top. Let me see, we're going 32, so you need 8. Yeah, so take the top 8 from each group, right? So group A, the top 8 from there, group B, top 8, top 8, top 8, and that makes your 32. So now if you're in your pool of 512, you're not competing to just get top 32. You need to get top 8 so that you can end up in the overall top 32 of everything. And I think that would allow it to run a lot more smooth, or a lot smoother, because now you have, let's just say PPG, and let's just say all 4 of the big ones, PPG, Core, Play, and Carter Magic, are all running it on the exact same day as one big pool. Well, each one of them is hosting theirs now, or hosting their part of the group. Then the next day, it's just those 32 people battling it out. And that would allow for, let's just say it's on a Saturday, I don't know, June 5th or whatever, right? So Saturday, June 5th, this is one big day of just One Piece, and all 4 of them are covering it. And now you have the top 32 from 2,000 people, and you just do one a month, you know what I mean? Or 2 a month or something like that. And that will allow a lot more people to get into the game, play the game, enjoy themselves. But I understand why they don't do that, Bandai, because it's going to require more prize support up front. And seeing as how some of the imports from Japan over here have been kind of janky, just through customs and everything, I can understand their hesitation to do it, because I think it took almost a month for Carter Magica to get out their top 32 playmats, because it took almost half a month for them to get it into the country. So I get it, and I can see the issues, and of course I'm not on behind the scenes, so I don't know all the ins and outs, but that was my theory. And if anybody's watching from a larger thing of how it could work,
Bandai, Michael Nightwing just fixed the game. Go ahead and send him a serial Garp for his troubles. We'll wait.
That'd be so great. As a leader, a serial Garp leader, oh my God, that'd be so
But yeah,
great.
no, I've never heard anyone bring that up. One thing I will say is, think about it like this. You just mentioned that Carta Magica is one of the 4 main companies. I think that it's just ridiculous that they're using online events to substitute for in-person, when online events should be just something that accompanies like in-person events, that makes it more fun for people, because that's how it was in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's how it was in Magic. The whole remote play was added because of COVID. And you think about that with all other implications in our society, and those substitutes are not still around in most areas, because that's not what is best for everyone. Now, these people are kind of doing what is the easier route because it requires less maintenance and less upkeep. Let's just talk about the fact that Carta Magica is one of the main 4 tournament organizers, and they're disclosed by region, which means that the only people who can enter this tournament are people who are in North America. Is it not ridiculous that we only have not only 3 major tournaments we can enter with a 500-person cap in the USA, but on top of that, we can just invade the entire country of Canada for one 500-person event? Like, why are people in the USA allowed to play in a Canada tournament? And why are people in a Canada tournament allowed to play in USA if they're going to have such a steep cap and literally only have 3 tournament organizers in one of the largest countries in the world and 1 tournament organizer in another pretty decently large country? Like, that makes no fucking sense. Who thought that that is a good business decision?
It just dawned on me, right? So you're limited to playing in your region, right? But there's really no limit to playing within your region.
Yeah, that's not even my fucking region.
No, because just think about it, right? So let's say you wanted to play in the one in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Well, you would just have to sign up for the one in Europe. That's it. Like, you would sign up for the one in Europe, and then pricing, because they need to know your address, you just get like a PO box or anything. So let's say you just had a buddy that lived in London. Okay, have it delivered to his house, and he just ships it to you. You know what I mean? Like, there's really no true limit to who can enter the tournament, because it's not like they check your IP address. They don't check and see like anything. Like, I can have the deepest Australian accent and play in the North American one, and no one's going to say anything. Oh, I'm from Australia. Where am I now? New York City. Okay, cool. That's it. There's really nothing you can do about it. Yeah, that just dawned on me. So it's like, we could be playing against people that literally don't live in the country.
Yes.
And that's the other thing, like, I guess with onlines, like I do enjoy like online for fun and casual type of stuff. Like
Yes.
just when I'm playing like for my videos, because it's cool. Like I can't see your hand. I don't really
It's
care. Like
different,
I'm
you
just
know?
right. I'm just playing. That's cool. Like your lighting sucks. Whatever. We're just playing. But it's like people could be playing with proxies. You know what I mean? Like, and I have nothing against proxies, but it's like, can everybody play with proxies? Because if you can just download a card and just put it into a sleeve, I'm not going to be able to tell the difference. You know what I mean? I can't tell. And that's one of those things. So it's like to have such large pricing for something that is easily cheatable. I will say it's kind of interesting. It just dawned on me like I
Yeah.
could have a proxy. I could just take, let's say like my leader, right? I saw somebody, the dude had like Cyril Luffy, and he had two Cyril Luffys, one in
Yeah.
the front, one in the back. And like let's just say like I did something like that with this card. So I just had her, and then she's in here, and I just flip her around to something else. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna know. You
Yeah.
may not even notice.
I mean, you could easily
Or
just swip between Luffy and Zoro because they had different implications for each matchup and can use the same deck list, like, and that would be
yeah,
super easy. Another thing is, not to mention, literally, if you were watching my stream in my first online regional, one of the guys I was playing against, someone in the chat literally said, "Is this guy on the McDonald's Wi-Fi?" Because his camera was so bad, he should have legally not been allowed to play me. This is round 7, and the guy's quality is so bad, I can't even identify any card he has in the field. I don't even know what leader
I
he's
played, I
playing.
played a guy like that. Yeah,
Bro.
I played a guy like that. He was playing Zoro, and I was like, all right, what leader are you playing? And I was like, all right, so I just can't really see because I think it was like round 7 or something. Like,
Yes.
I was already like whatever, but I was like, all right, well, I can make out just kind of what card you're playing because I play Zoro, so like this isn't like I'm too confused, but it's like this don't add up. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really see anything. No, I think I was like, this just ain't making sense to me.
Bro,
But yeah,
this guy, he literally, I thought he was playing Kinemon, and then it turns out he was playing Whitebeard. Fucking Whitebeard. Then my homie, who was chilling at my house, he was like, I thought he was playing Garp. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's funny.
I'm like, bro.
That's funny.
That it's not like one of those hidden pictures where it's like, is this dress yellow or this dress white to you? It's like two people should not be able to
Yeah.
look at your camera and think that something is completely different than it is. Like that should not be allowed. You know, and they're on top of that. Have you heard about the thing where both German finalists were caught at the exact same time cheating?
Like against each other?
Yes, in the finals. So they actually
What?
had the online event streamed, and in the German finals of this online regional, one Whitebeard player, it's a Whitebeard mirror match, because of course, all Whitebeard
of
people,
course.
like, bro, literally Whitebeard people are just the most sus people. Obviously, like, that's not everyone, but if the guy is on Whitebeard, and he does cheat, I'm not surprised, you know?
Not shocked.
Like,
That's
yeah,
funny.
so basically, one guy, he has his camera set up where it's just facing directly down. You know how, like, when you play, you normally are just like a fair and respectable man, so you have yours facing towards yourself, so you can actually see your hand and see what's happening. Well, this guy, he had it facing directly face down, so he was obviously going to have to hold his hand in a weird way to where
Yeah.
he can still see his hand, but the other guy doesn't see it. But he did this so that he could fake cut his own deck. So he picks up one half and goes like this, like fake, like does a cut, because it's like almost giving off a 2D effect instead of a 3D. Like the guy thought he could get away with it. And also just know that this is being streamed. So there's judges watching, and the judges don't notice the time of this happening until it's already over. And in this same 2-second frame, his opponent looks at multiple of his own life cards. And since you're playing Whitebeard, that's super important because now you know like what card you're drawing every turn.
That's hilarious. I need to look that up on Twitter. That's
I can send it
Yeah,
to you.
that-
It's in my Discord.
please do.
But-
Please do. I need to see this.
I was going to show it on my stream as a transitional slide in between like games in the online regional, but the guy who gave it to me, he was like, bro, I don't want you to post this because a Bandai representative already threatened to ban me for sharing this. And it's just like, bro, why are you being threatened to be banned for sharing someone cheating? Like, that just makes no fucking sense.
You know that's that's nutty. I definitely need you to send me that because it's disheartening that that's like the state of the game. But like I said, online, it gives you the option. And if people are going to cheat, they're going to cheat. They're going to find a way. And being able to do it online is just like that. And I think like at most, if you're playing online, you should be able to get an entry to an in-person regional. Maybe like that should be. Like, you should be playing for something like not. It's more. I guess more so like the way Yu-Gi-Oh pricing is, the way you said it, where it's like cheaper stuff, something that's not as tangible, that you can sell for a couple $1,000s.
To put it,
now, like,
to put it in this perspective, I wouldn't be invigorated by this. No one would be invigorated by this if there was more in-person opportunities, because it would make it to where there's not so much weight on these online events being so upheld. Because let's be real, like at the end of the day, you can only do so much. Like I can't even blame, the tournament organizer, all this stuff. Like you can just digitally like do so much stuff that you can't do in person. And if we were having more in-person events, then it wouldn't matter that there were these online events. Like, oh, okay, this guy, he kind of cheated me. It's like, okay, who cares? I've got 5 more opportunities to win what I would have won online. And you also got to think like online regionals are even more bullshit than online treasure cups, because it's like, okay, you don't get to play out top cut, so this guy who has the same record as me randomly just gets an invite to Nats, and I don't. Like, to put this into perspective for some of you guys who haven't been in these, so in the Peoria, Illinois regional, I was X-3, losing to a guy who got top 4 and another guy who got top 8 or top 16, and I ended up getting placed 50th. Well, in the most recent one, I lost to a guy who was in top cut and another guy who was in top cut, and I got placed 98th, and I was X3. And then even when I was X2, and one of my 2 losses was to the guy who got second place, and the other guy I lost to topped, I was placed 30th. And you know why? Because in the online event, people drop out of the tournament after they get the participation pricing. And when I got pushed up to 30th, that stopped me. Like, I should have been at least within 1 or 2 places of top 16, if not top 16, because one of my losses was to the guy who got second. Like, in terms of normal tiebreakers, that makes no fucking sense. But because they do this weird-ass rule where it goes off of strength of opponents, and over half of my opponents dropped out of the tournament, it screwed me in terms of tiebreakers. And because I actually won out, I boosted the guy who cheated to second place. And the prizes he got for getting second, he should not be rewarded even more than the people who got the same, record as him. And that's stopping some people from getting invites. My point is, online regionals are way more profitable to people who are cheaters than in terms of treasure cups. Because all you have to do is go X2, and then you get a finalist card set if you're in the top 32. And then that just gives you I think $500 to $700, depending on how much that's going for. And whereas if you are in the Treasure Cup, you don't get anything for getting top 32. You just get a chopper for top 64. And I've found that that's super hard to get rid of comparatively to the finalist card set. And you're also getting other stuff on top of that. You're getting a Nationals invite.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot. I never thought about that. I haven't really compared the pricing to the things, but no, that makes a lot of sense.
But I don't want to, dwell too much on diverging from the topic at hand. I just want to say in OPO3, I'm kind of excited for Ace, and I want to point out that I feel like it's kind of going to be what I consider a tier 0 meta. And what I mean by that is, you have the one deck that everyone's playing, and then there is a direct counter to that. And those are kind of the options. Well, a lot of people have, kind of a negative outlook on a tier 0 format. Coming from Yu-Gi-Oh, where they have a tier 0 format once every couple years, I'm actually down for that, because I think that a lot of the skill expression that's been missing in the game could be potentially solved by this. And what I mean by that is it's not going to be exactly tier 0 because there's multiple red decks, but for the most part, red is already the most dominant archetype in OPO2. Going into OPO3, I strongly feel that it is overwhelmingly even better than it is now, and it kind of just gatekeeps other colors even more so than what's currently been being held back. And we go into set 3. The top decks are going to be 100% confirmed. Whitebeard, Ace, and Zoro, and then you've got Yellow Katakuri, and then you've got Rob Lucci. Now, you could win with other things, but I'm just saying this is what's confirmed is good. You can prove other things like wrong, but at the end of the day, you can't say that these decks are not going to be viable. And, a lot of people are going to play one of the 3 red decks. What I feel like could be beneficial for someone like me who's gotten kind of unlucky and has been kind of waiting for their time to come is I found that like Ace is super skill intensive. Because one of the big reasons I resonated with Blue is because the ability to manipulate the deck added a new layer of skill expression to the game. And that's what I found out very early on, was that there is a lot of RNG factors. And if you want to perform well, you need to find a way to overcome that. And adding another layer of skill expression is one of the best ways you can do that. With Ace, you're basically adding an entire new role to an entire archetype of cards. You know what Ace does?
I know it's something event heavy.
So it just says that if you can use events as 1K counters. And you can do that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's
you can do that on attack as well. So if I attack you, I can discard 2 events, and then my leader goes to 7. Whereas if you attack me for 5 with one of your Zoro characters, I discard 1 event. And that's really nice because then it just adds another layer of a decision-making process, at least in my mind. I might find out to be extremely toxic. What I will say is it's super irritating because you have 4 Whitebeard Pirates event card that's already out right now. The search card. And then we're getting a Whitebeard Pirate Searcher in the Ezo character card. And that card can add the Whitebeard Pirate Search card. Well, the one disadvantage of that search card is, number 1, you could miss, and number 2, it's an event with no counter. Well, Ace adds a counter to that card, making it decrease the disadvantages it has altogether. And then on top of that, we're getting 4 Buggy. You know what Buggy does?
So it must be a red Buggy?
Yes.
No, not at all.
I'm not gonna lie.
I haven't even seen
Buggy should be fucking banned. This card is literally just so broken. I don't even know what they added to this in the game. Even if this card was not in the game, red would still be overwhelmingly just the best deck to play and the highest power level overall. It's a 1-cost 3k power searcher. On play, reveal the top 5. Add 1 red event to hand. Any red event, no restrictions. 1-cost 3k power. Okay, so hold on. Let me go ahead and put my shoes in the Bandai developers' mind. Okay, let's think about this. Okay, red is already broken. I mean, they have 2 or 3 searchers already. Okay, I mean purple. They don't have any searchers. I mean they don't need any. Okay, wait, black. Black needs a searcher. I see it. Okay. The black searcher, it'll cost 2. But as a caveat, because it's going to be too busted, we're going to only allow you to look at the top 3 cards. And we're going to give it 3k power. That's fair. It's wait, what about this other card, Curly Dedan? Isn't that just the exact same cost and the same stat line, but I get to look at 5 cards? No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And it's wait, okay. Well, yeah, since we're not considering that, let's go ahead and add in Buggy, which literally does what the Black Searcher does, except it reveals 5 and costs 1 less. How is that fair? On top of that, he just has a random 3rd effect for no reason. It says this character cannot be KO'd by slash characters or leaders. And it just so happens the Zoro leader is a slash leader. And so is the character. Which means that, number 1, think about in this set. People who played Zoro literally have been playing the 1-cost 3k Sunny Kun just because it's a 1-cost 3k and requires a 1 Dawn investment from your leader to make it a natural attacker. Well, now we're just going to power creep that and make it a searcher and give it an additional random effect for no reason. Why the heck is that in the game?
Does it have counter?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Okay.
But why does it need to have counter? Like
if
it's
it
already.
did, I was like, that's
It
crazy.
doesn't matter
I
that
was
it
like,
has
that's
that it
nuts.
doesn't have counter, because you got to think you can already like use it to add cards that do. Because if you're playing Ace,
Fair,
then
yeah,
I
you have a
can
bunch of-
think
bunch
about
of
this.
events.
I was playing my friend who's playing Rob Lucci. I go turn 1 buggy, add Whitebeard Pirates event card. Okay, turn 2. I summon Ezo, add another Whitebeard Pirates event card. Then I play my Whitebeard Pirates event, add an Ezo. Okay, then I play my Ezo again, and at this point, I have searched 4 times in the first 2 turns of the game. How is that fair?
Yeah, that's a little nutty.
I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! We're playing 2 different games. You're literally in delusional land. You're with the motherfucking Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon in fucking Toonland. And I'm over here playing with the good cards. Like, we're from 2 different families. I was born in the good neighborhood, and my mom bought me the Kaiba starter deck. And you're over here with the Red Eyes Black Dragon Joey starter deck. That you got from, Goodwill. You're like, your mom's like, hey, you wanted this deck, right? Like, yeah. The most powerful dragon in terms of mediocre attack and defense. And I'm just like, screw the rules. I have money. That's how it feels as a red player. Like, it's literally just so broken. I don't know why you get to do this. And then you just think about, like, all the synergies that are with that. Why can you add 9-drop Whitebeard character now? The most notoriously unfair card. Yeah. Why does the search card allow you to add that to hand? And why can the search card be added with another search card?
Yeah, no, okay, yeah.
I'm going to break your mind right now. Think about how many search cards are in blue. Everybody just go, put a sad emoji, a sad Pepe for all the blue people who will never get to experience the joys of a real searcher. And then let's just think about it like this. Theoretically, I could play a deck with 4 Nami, 4 Buggy, 4 Ezo Searcher. Okay, that's 12 searchers right there. That means I can play 4 Curly to Dan. And then I can add 12 different searcher cards off of my Curly to Dan. How is that fair? Like, I'm not saying you will do that, but the fact that that's theoretically an option, you literally have as many search cards in red as there are 2K counters in green.
Okay, yeah.
Wait,
okay, well, red's obviously the favorite color of the
of
the game.
Like, that's just gonna decrease the skill of the game so much, and that's why I'm hoping, that's why I'm probably gonna play Ace, because I feel like, number one, Whitebeard is no skill, and you just punch people in the face for big numbers. And the only reason people do good in the USA with Whitebeard is just because the other person doesn't necessarily know as well as the other people in the Asian meta know how to play against a 6K leader, because it is different if you don't have experience with it. And, now everybody's gonna have experience with it. Like, it's just sacky. The only advantage to it is when you go Ace on 7, then back-to-back Whitebeard, you automatically win. Well, with the new Ace deck, if you're basically guaranteed to have Ace on 7, I would say. Because, like I just told you, pretty much every hand, I searched 3 to 4 times in the first 2 turns of the game. And it's like, at that point, I've already went through half my deck. Like, another turn in, and I'm guaranteed to see an Ace. When I should have already seen it, and it's like, damn, that just busted, because I think 7-cost Ace is probably one of the most unfair cards in the game, like, for how much Dawn you're paying.
7 Dawn minus 3,000 to 2, yeah, and Rush, that's a little disrespectful.
Yeah, because you got to think about it like this. All of the cards in your red deck are lower to the ground than other decks, like all your search cards. You're a minimum going to have 8 searchers. Well, any of those that you had on the board, like your Ezo Whitebeard Pirate Searcher, okay, Moby Dick's banned, that's fine. Well, even though my Ezo doesn't have as much utility as it had before, well, I can play my Ace, reduce your guy from 5 to 2, and now my Ezo just swings without a Dawn investment. It just adds value to all of my low-value searchers. That's just broken.
Yeah, no, that's...
It's like, I already got a +1. Let me get a +2, bud.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's... Sheesh.
Hey, good thing your leader's touching red, bro.
Yes, that's it. Just A little just, yeah, that's a lot.
I'm out here cooking.
Okay, OPO3. Interesting.
OPO3, bro.
But
AK, the year that Beats by Ash wins his first serial Luffy.
well, by then it should be, what, I know that, what, Shanks? No, is it still Luffy?
Is it?
Yeah, it's probably still Luffy.
It's serial Garp.
I wish. I did see there was like a serial Shanks. I think I saw like
There
a
is?
Japanese one of it. Yeah. It was like for some flagship tournament or something they were doing, it was like serial number Shanks. Look it up. It was definitely cool. I saw it on Twitter.
That would be
like
goated.
a month ago. Yeah, it was like, so the same like 9 drop Shanks, but it was like serial number.
Damn.
And I was like, that looks cool.
My goal is right now, if you guys can smash the like button enough before OPO3 starts, then I will be able to afford four manga Ace and 3 manga Shanks so that I can play them in my Ace deck, so I can be rizzed up. That's my goal, is to get my money up in time, you know? Like I always say, pressure is a privilege, and it's all on me to acquire the manga cards before I get to the tournament. Because, you know, like, there's not a lot of ways that I can differentiate myself in terms of, like, skill from the other person. But when I have the manga cards, it's just an intimidation factor. It's like, you know, I was destined to win. You know, God just has favorites. And that's why I have more manga cards than you know?
Oh man, dude, I enjoy talking to you. It's very fun.
For sure, bro. We'll have to
What's
do
happening?
another one again soon. But that's where we're getting close to the end of this video. Do you have any final thoughts before we close this one out?
No, man, I just thoroughly enjoyed just again chatting with you about everything. I think for me, what I enjoy, and if anybody's watching, what I enjoy about talking to people that are just better than me at a game or anything in general is just the little bit of knowledge that just makes its way every time, because it's just very enjoyable, like different ways to think, different thought processes. So like I say, just appreciate you for, you know, continue putting out your content the way you put it out, authentically unapologetically you, and I like that. I like that. This is how you do things, and I like it. I enjoy it, and I just appreciate you for it. So yeah, that's it. Just, man, you know, just the goo.
Yes, sir.
Keep it up with the goo.
The most based One Piece tuber in 2023. That's all we can say. And honestly, I would argue that I was probably the first to start off with the One Piece podcast. And it's really depicted by the level of equipment, the experience I have with podcasts in general, because I'm always bringing on the best guests, because the best is blessed, and that's us. And that's why I have on the best store owner and the best Beyblader in the US. So if you want to get some more, you know, shorts content, because no one's out here doing the shorts like Mike, make sure to go subscribe to his channel. In fact, pause the video, go over to his channel, give his coaching video featuring me some more views so I can feel really less validated about my purpose in life for the fact that his video of me has more views than my entire channel. You know, go ahead and do that, because, you know, we're going to see more of this guy in the future, and that's for a reason, because he's out here doing it like no one has ever done before. If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you so much. Everyone at the Table 1 podcast appreciates it, and if you're on Garp, we'll probably see you at Table 1 in the future. Make sure to let us know what you want to see in the comments down below next, and as always, if it's not the goo, it's got to go. Peace.
Is that indigo?